back here on Extra Points on WTAJ Plus. Remember, you can tune in weekdays at 3:30 right here. We appreciate Preston Shoemaker joining us from the nation's capital, the state capital. He's in Harrisburg tonight as the Altoona Curve taking on the Harrisburg Senators. A really key series in these late season standings. The Curve, just a 2-game lead in the Eastern League second half standings, just up over Akron and Harrisburg, who are both 2 games back. Preston, it's crazy when you look at run differential. I find this to be just absolutely hilarious that the Curve could be next to last in these standings right now, but somehow they have a narrow edge here in these late season standings and look like they're in position to really compete and get into the postseason.
Yeah, that run differential kind of got lopsided in the first half of the season. A couple of big losses, and the Curve have been chasing to get back even on that differential all year. But, they started the second half hot, going 9-1 in their first 10 games. And because of that, the Curve have held that first place position since the start of the second half in that last week of June all the way through. They haven't given it up yet. They've been tied for first a few times. So entering this week at Harrisburg, the Senators were a game behind Altoona, 6 games to play this week. That's kind of a really big spot to be in, comparable to where the Curve were a few weeks ago when they went to Richmond, and the Flying Squirrels were a game behind them. Altoona won 4 games that week. So this is a good Harrisburg team. It was great for Altoona to come out with the shutout victory and kind of make a statement last night to start this week, but every game will matter for the rest of the season. 6 games against Harrisburg this week, next week at home against Richmond, and then traveling to Erie, who would be the team that Altoona could potentially see in the postseason.
How important do you think getting this playoff experience is for the playoff run for guys like Connor Griffin and Termarr Johnson, who you do hope that are going to be, doing this in Pittsburgh in a couple of years?
Yeah, it's a great point to make. I think sometimes people roll their eyes at the idea of minor league playoffs and they're like, okay, well, it doesn't matter all that much. It's just to develop players. Playoffs aren't a big deal. But you ask any guy in our clubhouse, and I'm sure in Harrisburg's clubhouse right now, if they care about winning games this week, and the answer is going to be yes. These guys want to show that they can win at every level that they play at. Greensboro is in a playoff race. Indianapolis is in a playoff race. So for these guys here, it's about trying to win where they're at, their feet on the ground here with Altoona. And if they can get that winning experience, take it with them to Pittsburgh, because that's what Connor Griffin will tell you, what Termarr Johnson will tell you, that they want to win at the next level and they want to learn how to do it here. And they got a great shot to do it.
I spent a lot of time in my childhood at City Island Stadium, now FNB Park, I think it is.
Yeah, FNB Field.
FNB Field there in Harrisburg. I watched Milton Bradley
boy,
for the Harrisburg Senators. A lot of those. They were formerly with the Expos, obviously now with the Nationals. Watched a lot of guys come up through there. Brandon Phillips. I do have a soft spot in my heart for that. But, talking about these standings, you mentioned taking on Erie potentially in the playoffs. They won the first half of the season. 1 through 5 in this division right now is really just a razor. It's 5 games differentiate 1 through 5. What does that say about the state of this division and these minor league systems?
Well, a 5-game difference between those 5 teams feels like a big gap now, because it's been 2.5, 3.5 games between these 5 teams for weeks. But it says that there's a lot of talent right now in this league. You look at Erie; they've got a handful of some of the top prospects in all of baseball. This Harrisburg team has some of the best Nationals prospects on their roster. That Richmond squad's got a few guys that are intriguing. Akron just called up Ralphie Velasquez and a few other big Guardians prospects. So a lot of teams like to get key prospects to Double-A to end the year. It's kind of a benchmark level where you can get your feet wet, kind of like Johnson. He got here last year a little earlier than this time and played the last 4 weeks of the season with the Curve, and it's what Griffin is doing this year. So this time of year, the best baseball gets played in the Eastern League, because players are arriving who have dominated all year at their level and are looking to prove that it wasn't a fluke and that they can perform here as well. So this Harrisburg team has great pitching. The Curve have some solid pitching and a really solid batting order right now that might be the best that we've seen in the last 5-6 years since the pandemic. And, it's going to be fun to see which team can get into the postseason, because I don't want to discredit that Erie team. They are very talented, but they're sliding a little bit in this second half. You mentioned they're the 5th place team in the division now after winning the first half. So Second half champions usually have a little more momentum going into the postseason, but anything can happen in a 3-game series. It's hard to really look one way or the other and assume that a team's got the upper hand.
Now, Preston, how would the playoffs work? Let's say if a team like Erie, who won the first half, ended up winning the second half too. Would it then go to the team in second place?
Yeah, so if the first half champion wins the second half, then the second place team in the second half would get that other postseason spot. And it's actually something that is probably going to happen in the other division. Binghamton is winning in the second half by 5 games over, or it's actually 7 games now over Somerset, and they won the first half. So it's likely that whoever finishes in second place in that division in the second half will play Binghamton in the playoffs. So in Altoona's sake, it's going to be the second half champion will play Erie in a 3-game series. Game 1 will be played at the second half champion stadium, which would be Altoona if they won, and then games 2 and 3 in Erie. And if you go to the championship, the Northeast Division will host game 1, and the Southwest Division will host games 2 and 3. So the Curve in the Southwest Division, if they would make it all the way to a championship, they would have a chance to clinch at home in front of Curve fans.
Does that home and away between the divisions rotate every other season?
Yes, yeah, it's a rotation for who gets to host between the Northeast and the Southwest in the championship. This year's just a Southwest year. But the second half champion will always host game 1 in the divisional round because the team that won the first half kind of gets the home field advantage for game 3 if needed because they already won and they had longer to not only sell tickets but also be the team that's in the playoffs. So they get a little edge there. And it's the second half champion that has to turn around and host a game quick. So funny enough, how that would play out for Altoona, assuming the Curve pulled this off, playing Sunday at Erie to end the season, driving home on a Monday off day, playing Tuesday at home against Erie, driving back to Erie on a Wednesday to play at Erie Thursday and maybe Friday.
Thank goodness Erie's close.
A lot of back and forth between Erie and Altoona possibly if the Curve are the team that gets there.
Yeah, I mean, how exciting would that be? Because it seems it has been quite a while since there were like big time meaningful games down the stretch for the Curve.
This would be the first time that John and I, who have been broadcasting games for the Curve since 2021, would see postseason baseball, which would be really cool. I remember being a fan, rooting for that Curve team in 2017. I remember in 2010 when the Curve went to the postseason. It's just special. Every game matters. Every pitch, you're hanging on and holding your breath with every inning. So that would be really fun, not only for the players, for us as employees who work all season and kind of look forward to the off season, but when you get a chance here to add another week to your year with a chance to play meaningful baseball, you take it. And the fans can get really excited too. To see a playoff baseball game at People's Natural Gas Field would be the first since 2018.
And not only that, as I always say, one of the most unique things that I think about the Curve being the Pirates AA affiliate is that everybody going to the games are Pirates fans because of the proximity to Pittsburgh. You don't see that very often in other areas. Most teams' minor league affiliates are not anywhere close to where they actually play.
Yeah, it's such a unique chance to be able to have that relationship with your parent club. You mentioned not every team gets that. I mean, look at Richmond, whose parent club is in San Francisco on the other side of the country. It's a different group of fans that go to games there that aren't necessarily Giants fans, but they're baseball fans. So it comes with pros and cons. But I mean, if I tell you that Connor Griffin is playing in a playoff game in Altoona, and a Pirates fan who lives on the other side of Pittsburgh looks it up and sees it's a 2 hour and change ride in and tickets are affordable, I think people will want to come out and see Connor play in a game like that in Termar and whoever else is in the starting lineup. So we're certainly excited about that chance, and the guys understand what they need to do to get to that point. But right now the focus is on this week against Harrisburg because they're a really good team and they are right there knocking on the door as well. They could easily flip the script with a few wins this week.
Yeah, I think you guys make both really good points. I mean, going back to I watched Harrisburg growing up as a kid. Well, they were with Montreal and now Washington. And while Washington's much closer, Montreal was not. I grew up a Phillies fan, right? So I do think this is a really fun, unique relationship. The other thing you get by being so close to Pittsburgh that not all franchises get is you get the rehab starts. Whereas a lot of other franchises, that's going to AAA. I mean, Philadelphia is a great example that Lehigh Valley the Iron Pigs are right there, just outside Philadelphia. There's no, even though Reading's not far at all, there's no reason to send them to Reading. Pittsburgh has the luxury of being right here next to Pittsburgh, or Altoona gets to be right next to Pittsburgh and get guys like Oviedo or O'Neal Cruz out there in the rehab start. So it's a really cool relationship and geographically, and it's part of what makes everybody loving curve baseball. I wanted to see if I could fit that in somehow.
And not only that, we saw it when Paul Skeens made his curve debut. You had people coming from all over the state. I interacted with so many people that had said they had spent $200 on tickets on the secondary market, drove up from Greensburg or Pittsburgh. The Pittsburgh fans are not hesitant to drive down to Altoona to watch the curve play and see some Pirates prospects.
Yeah, it was fun to talk to a bunch of Pirates fans last week who came in to see Connor Griffin. And, you're walking on the concourse and someone's asking, where's the best place I can go to try and get an autograph? Or I have friends that are texting me saying, oh, what's he look like? Is he good? How is he? And I'm like, yeah, the stats are no joke. This guy is putting together a historic season in the Pirates minor league system. And you just hope at this point that he ends the year on a high note, whether that be playoff baseball or not, and it stays healthy. And then you go into this offseason, give him a chance to recharge and kind of reflect on all of the great things that he was able to accomplish this year. Send him to spring next year and see where the Pirates start him, because I don't think it's out of the question that this kid could start in AAA next year and not come back to Altoona, because that's how good he is. I think the obvious starting place would be 2 to 3 months with the curve, then Indianapolis.
There you go, Preston.
But
let's be more positive here. I want Connor Griffin back next year.
I would love to have Connor Griffin back, but I also think curve fans should come out next week and watch him play at home and come to the playoff games, because we didn't get to see Paul Skeens again, and Connor's just as good on the opposite side of things with the glove and the bat, and it'll be unique to see where they start him next year, because he's definitely one of those guys that has all the tools needed to be successful.
One final home series for the curve?
Yep, final home week in the regular season is next Tuesday, 6 o'clock games all week with a Sunday 1 o'clock game. Richmond Flying Squirrels are in town. And depending on what happens this week against Harrisburg, next week's going to be very important for that playoff push. There's an outside chance that if the Curve are in a position to clinch a playoff spot, that it could come next weekend, although it's more likely that something like that would push back to the last week of the year when Altoona City Erie. But still a great chance to come out and see the guys one last time in the regular season and try to grab those playoff tickets, which are on sale now. So if you're knowing that you want to lock in and the Curve are going to make the postseason, you could buy those playoff tickets on our website.
Exciting time for the Altoona Curve. He is Preston Shoemaker, voice of the Altoona Curve. He's in Harrisburg tonight as the Curve gets set to take on the Senators. Preston, we appreciate you joining us here this afternoon. Extra Points.
Thanks, guys. Love stopping by. Go Curve.
So big.
Thanks, guys.